Bonsoir à toutes et à tous. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are most welcome to the chapel tonight, in person and also virtual. Most of you knows the chapel already, not only as a multicultural space to get together and to pray for Europe, and not only for Europe, but also as a platform to reflect and exchange on important European and non-European social questions. So tonight we gather together to reflect on enterprises where managements try to apply the social teaching of the church, and it seems to work. We will discuss the experience of the Spanish Mondragón group, and it will be about the possible company models that are more inclusive and more participative. Towards a new model for companies in Europe is the title. And it's organized together with Comece, which is the Catholic Church representation to the European Union, and the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation. And this morning it was presented at the European Parliament. I hope it went well. And tonight it is presented at the chapel. The evening is moderated by Mr. John Kearns, who is the expert advisor to the European Union Commission of Social Entrepreneurship, and who will in turn introduce all our distinguished guests and lead us through this event tonight. Last but not least, you will certainly have speeches. Please make it short. It can be a challenge, but so we can have more time for possible exchange among you and also with the audience. So you are most welcome, and let the evening start.
Thank you, Father Krystian, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm actually very humbled also to be here. I'm in such august company. It is very, very humbling. The amount of degrees in various disciplines that are on this pedestal is mind-blowing. I have CVs, and I think I'm probably going to tell you at this stage, I won't go through the CVs because it would take half the time. But let me tell you, you've got a really incredibly impressive panel to hear from today. I will say a little something very shortly, but we're very honoured to have the Bishop of Bilbao with us, and I'd like to call on the Bishop now, Monsignor Joseba Segura, to introduce the topic.
Dear friends, first of all, let me express my deepest gratitude to Father Manuel for this heartful welcome to the Comece and for the organization of two excellent events today, for the one at the European Parliament and the present one here at this chapel for Europe. Is it possible to transform the economic system? Is it possible to make it more responsive to the needs of individuals and of society at large? Can the human heart and economic efficiency meet? More pointedly, even from the Christian perspective, can with the mission of witnessing to that presence. And this is why the Christian faith has a public dimension. The whole of creation is our midst, and there is nothing outside it. The Second Vatican Council put it this way, and I quote, "The joys and the hopes, the griefs and the anxieties of the men of this age especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys and hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. Indeed, nothing genuinely human fails to raise an echo in their hearts. And this is the end of the quote. We also know that the kingdom of God is not the outcome of our effort only, but the result of the action of the Holy Spirit in history. Furthermore, that kingdom will not be fulfilled until the second coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. But how can the church witness to this faith, to all of them, to the different dimensions of this faith in history? One of the ways consists on the endeavor to apply the ethics of the kingdom to the polis. The church has developed a great corpus called the social doctrine of the church, most of it focused on justice and peace and on how to set the foundations for a fully humane economic system. Joseba Arizmendiarrieta was a Basque priest who paid full attention to the teachings of the social doctrine of the church that he received during his formation years at the seminary of Vitoria, which is actually now the capital of the Basque country. Born in 1915, he was appointed associate pastor to the parish of a small town in Guipúzcoa. The name of the town was Mondragón, where he spent his entire priest life. Working with the youth under the principles of the social movement called Catholic Action, he set in motion what nowadays is known as the Mondragón Cooperative Group. At the time, it was a sort of revolution focused on the applying the main tenets of the social doctrine of the church to the realm of business, companies, and economy at large. The cooperative movement not only transformed the town of Mondragón and its surroundings, but brought about a new economic model based on the primacy of the human person. Father Arizmendiarrieta was a native innovator, always looking for new ideas, devising at the same time creative ways of implementing them in the real world. He knew of the changing nature of things and therefore never thought of the cooperative movement and its achievements and something fixed once and forever, but on the contrary, as a reality always adapting to new times and circumstances. His total devotion to his priestly ministry was coupled with the virtues of poverty, humility, and the pursuit of holiness. And this is why in 2015, Pope Francis declared him venerable. On the initiative of several lay people, the Diocese of San Sebastián, joined by the Basque dioceses of Bilbao and Vitoria, agreed to set up the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation with the mission of following on the steps of the work of Father Arizmendiarrieta, trying to find new ways of making the world of companies and the economy more responsive to the dignity of the human beings and the pursuit of the common good today. I hope that this event may help us to take a step, even a small one, in that direction. Again, my deepest thanks to Father Manuel and to those who belong to this chapel for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Joseba. We're going to watch a video very, very shortly, but I just thought, I'd share one thought with you that struck me in preparation for today, for no real reason, but a thought struck me in an expression in the world of design. Form follows function. And I kind of thought, so what has that got to do with this? Well, we're kind of looking at the form of organisation. That when a business or a company begins, it looks at what format it should follow. But in actual fact, that form should follow the function. And the function here is what we're really examining. What are the function of the business organisation? What's the function of work? What's the function of a place, of a cooperative? And I think we're discovering more and more that the function is much more about human dignity, worthwhile adventures, looking after the planet, the resources, wise use of those things. Not so much about shareholder capital return. So it's worthwhile remembering that as we kind of go through this evening. Watch the form, but watch the function. Keep the function very much in mind as to what it is we're trying to achieve, because this is growing. This is growing really strongly. The awareness and the certitude that we need to change the kind of functions we expect from our business world. So I think with that, sorry, I also just wanted to share something with you about Mondragón, because I was a bit adventurous. I said, I must try this chat GPT and see, can it write something for me that would be helpful. It wrote a full page about the Mondragón Corporation, but I'm not going to share all of that with you, but the end of it is good. Remember, this is a computer that has no real sentiment. But it finishes by saying, in conclusion, the Mondragón Corporation is a shining example of what can be achieved when people come together with a common goal. Its unique business model, focus on innovation, sustainability and social responsibility have contributed significantly to the economic development of the region and the world. We should all take inspiration from the Mondragón Corporation and strive to create businesses that are not only profitable but also socially and environmentally responsible. Well, I think more ChatGPT now. I think we have a video that we're going to watch before we get into the meat of the discussion this evening.
Shall we go over that?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
once the
The uniqueness of the work of Arizmendiarrieta, in my opinion, is that he can create a cooperative business social work, a work that integrates all sectors of a community. In addition, it is a work that goes beyond the local community. It becomes a work of national and international character. That is, one of the best known and more internationalized companies that the Basque Country and Spain have.
It is something unique in the world in that sense. The cooperative formula is being run in a school, in a university, in research centers, in the industry, in the bank, well, different sectors that have cooperativized. In addition, all of this is integrated in a group and articulated in network. That is something that makes this cooperative experience unique.
When I receive diplomatic delegations, I find that people do not know about the person of Father José María Arizmendiarrieta, and yet they know his work.
There are some cooperative societies which are leading internationally. Their activity sectors are competing with other large companies from different parts of the world that at some point in their history, had it not been for their inter-cooperation, they probably would not have survived. I waive part of my estate because we need it. We create funds. It is a truly distinctive element of Mondragón cooperatives.
Distintivo del cooperativismo de Mondragón.
If you place the person in the center and dignity first, the capital is an instrument, not a goal.
The sign of vitality is not to last, but to be reborn and adapt. That's what he said.
Arizmendiarrieta said, "We are not a model, we are an experience. That experience must stay alive, and to keep it alive, we need to be constantly changing and in continuous innovation.
We are the only cooperative university in the world. What does that mean? It means the workers of this university are owners and responsible for the university project to make sense. We have a university that works for society and for our companies.
The search for balance between business logic and values, because something that confirms this cooperative experience is that you can make profitable and sustainable companies over time, but which work with other values.
Those three terms, the technical, the social, and the spiritual, I think they are not easy to be put together in a single project, and I think that may be the genius work of Arizmendiarrieta.
The cooperative movement of Mondragón arises in a certain moment of another need. There were many needs to be met, a thirst for important social justice, and a desire to humanize the company. We had to change the company. It did not respect human dignity, and something had to be done in a different way.
Friends, Pope Francis, shepherds with the smell of sheep. I think that also in this, Don Jose Maria was an advanced person. He was a sheep-smelling shepherd, a shepherd who knew how to capture the needs of his people.
Humanism, cooperation, and social justice. I want to emphasize those values.
He drank from the priest movement of Victoria, which is later expressed in people and in very different pastoral developments. But that certainly places the emphasis in priestly holiness.
What was the famous motto like?
Always, only, and in everything, priest.
Good part of the cooperative project, apart from being a vindication of religiosity and the more utopian side of Christian religiosity in the world of work, is also a claim that there are causes that do not require the participation of politics.
He settled his religious vocation, and he probably matured it by watching the horrors of war. He decided to take the path of the poor, of the workers, of the person, and of their community formation. Many influences came from one place and another to get him involved in an incipient Basque movement at that time, and rejected all those temptations to focus on what he had decided.
He was ordained at this altar in 1941, and he was destined to Arrasate, to Mondragón, and there he spent practically his whole life.
I arrived at the Mondragón station on February 5th, 1941. In this municipality, south of Guipúzcoa, there was no bread, nor meat, nor oil, neither legumes, nor sugar, nor coal, nor electricity, nor hope for a lost youth. Spain was dominated by fascism, and in Europe an atrocious war was taking place. I, who wanted to have continued my sociology studies in Leuven, was assigned by the bishop to the parish of San Juan Bautista, where I would act as coadjutor, helping the parish priest for the rest of my life.
Then this coadjutor, assistant pastor, becomes ferment of the parish.
The Victoria bishop ordered him to be preceptor of the Catholic objection, coadjutor for Catholic action. And in the same sense, he found in the apprenticeship school the most important nucleus of young people that could become members of the Catholic Association on character and people relationships subjects.
One of the perpetual theses of Mr. Jose Maria was that something had to be done.
The main merit of his is to indicate the way, give a clue, create enthusiasm, and carry on. There are no economic nor legal problems nor anything that could stop them.
We collaborated in everything, in league, in everything, everything. If we had to look for an apartment for a student of the professional school, we did. Anti-tuberculosis, too.
So, as it is seen, he did not stop. He did not leave them in peace.
The way Mr. Jose Maria used to confess people was totally different from all the priests with whom I confessed. He was looking to give you criteria to improve your behavior patterns.
Don Jose Maria was behind and said, read this, read the other, read, permanently. He used to tell me, you are the liver of your husband. You are the arm. With that, I was more than happy.
And that's when he decided to create a new vocational training center to accommodate all the young people of the town.
He carries all the projects with the idea of integrating the two communities under the symbol of the professional school. At the professional school, children come together and are not asked what family they come from.
At that time, the chance of studying, when people were 14 years old, they used to begin to work, and he insisted in opening the horizons to all people for them to continue studying. We would not have been able to study had he not developed the Arizmendiarrieta school. It was impossible. I started working when I was 17, and I would have been a worker of the union Cerrajera with my professional training. Arizmendiarrieta launched this opportunity to study, and I said, this opportunity that you have offered us has to be extended to the entire population as much as possible. When I finished the report, Arizmendiarrieta called me and said, Javier, we need you at school. We need teachers. Would you like to come? I was working at Unión Cerrajera de Vergara. I had a position of responsibility. I had even been offered to increase the charge to a greater responsibility, but I did not hesitate.
There was a capital increase, 20% to the capital of the Union Cartesiera. That 20% was proposed to be given to the workers. Don Camilo Bastareccia, who was the director and a great person, said no. The right of the partners was inalienable. We would have been honest officials, nothing more. He already extended our lives. Because just as people retire at 65, I retired at 90. I have not retired yet. We had no idea what the company was going to be like, huh? We just wanted to have a more social company.
Ormayeksha, Goranotia, and someone else are going to start a company. Oh, I want to join that.
Finally, 12 million pesetas were accumulated with contributions from people of Mondragón, and with that, the first investments are made. First, Fagor Electronica and Fagor Electrodomésticos, especially and later Aresate.
We must create cooperative members. People prepared and willing to work in community before generating a cooperative.
Then Jose Maria in the basements of the school started doing some research.
If we are a bad training center or an ordinary engineering center, how can you tell us about research, we told Jose Maria. We did not think that we could enter into investigation. Yet, we entered.
We must agree with the management plan and approve it today.
And where are you going to get the money for the expansion?
What if we set up a bank, our own bank?
Go away, Mr. Jose Maria. We have too much work to hear such nonsense. He came in, opened the door, saw that we were on a board of directors meeting, and said that we had to create a bank. I said angrily, go away, Mr. Jose Maria. We have too much work to hear such nonsense.
That was the mother of all the cooperatives that come behind, because it was the one that financed the other cooperatives in Euskadi.
Not only that, there was also a great enthusiasm. Caja Laboral was not only a financial entity, it had a business division to create and to promote cooperative companies. It played both roles, the creation of companies and a financial institution.
And there was another for social service, Lagoon Aro.
It was the heart where all the elements were obtained to develop the cooperative experience.
That thing of a passbook wallet was a wake-up call saying, if you do not want to save and you do not want to invest, you will have to leave your village to work in other populations. In Mondragón, the population tripled. He had a cooperative store to make a shadow of what Segura had in its own store, but there came a time when it was not worth it. He had to make a cooperative. He always had the idea of cooperatives. Eroski was formed by the merger of several cooperatives.
The League of Education and Culture created the League of Education and Culture Cooperative in which professors were integrated as cooperative members. The companies were integrated as cooperative partners, and the students were integrated as cooperative members. Then he formed a mixed cooperative, in which professors, companies, and students participated. Since then, it has been functioning as the Polytechnic School of Mondragón, a mixed cooperative with legal personality and with full cooperative right.
Arizmendiarrieta, on the other hand, combined utopia and practice. He thought there had to be space, but the practice was also very important. He was a thinker very devoted to action. He was constantly doing and reflecting on that.
He had 1, common sense. 2, a high level of moral demand, very high. And a prevalent destiny of the community.
Del comunitario.
That is to say, in the dilemma between community and individual, the interest of the community must prevail.
In Mondragón, many people are upset because of you.
Why? Who?
Businessmen, mind that you do not lavish your gifts upon the ungrateful. That's what they tell me when they come to complain because their best workers go to cooperatives. The civil governor of Guipúzcoa wants to banish you from Mondragón. Some industrialists believe that you were the agitator of this year's general strike.
Surely, they will be the same ones who want us out of the market.
Look, Father, you will be able to stay in Mondragón, but in return, I only ask one thing. Promise me that you will be silent for 6 months.
But
6 months until everything calms down. That's an order.
he translated intelligence into works, because he said that ideas, if not translated into works, are useless.
He was austere by definition, then by necessity, and then by concept.
He once came home and said, Javier, I have to go to Germany. Yes, I know you have to go to Germany. But I do not have a coat. He came to ask for my coat to go to Germany. He created all this and never had anything.
In February 1976, when he was horrified of operating room, 2 days before his death, the Minister of Labor, Álvaro Rengifo Calderón, came to visit him. When they said goodbye, Uncle Jose Marie made a reflection. He said the following words: Álvaro, looking back is an offense to God. You have to always look forward.
I also remember, a few days before he died, he said, look, as I follow Christ, what I do, I promote, I want, or desire, is the development of man.
He gave our lives a sense. He gave us a motive, a reason, a sense to work, to delude, to develop, to create. In the end, the motto, he said, was create and not own, act and not win, progress and not dominate. That is the motto I like the most because it means create, create, create. Owning is another problem. it is not the bishop or the pope who demands that cause. It is the group of faithful that has lived with him, usually called fame of holiness. In that case, these disciples were interested in him. They knew him in youth. I think that was the key to meet Jose Maria Arizmendiarrieta.
The church has been concerned about economic and social issues, particularly from 1891 with Leo XIII and the Rerum Novarum encyclical. That doctrine has gone on. That way of thinking about social issues has permeated throughout this time. The universal destiny of the goods above the right to private property. Everything is for everyone and not for the exclusive enjoyment of a few. That is a decent, well-paid job that can unfold the capacities of people, their creativity. It is work as an expression of one's own person. The economy must be subordinated to politics. That is, the public interest must prevail on the private interest and the person must be placed in the center, not to the economy. An economy at the service of the human being. I believe that Arizmendiarrieta drank from all these lines that are being developed throughout these 100 years. He made himself a participant in the Mondragón group, in the cooperative movement.
When this economic initiative started, Father Arizmendiarrieta gave work to the people so they produced. He did it only to do something good for someone.
He did, as the Pope says, very often solve people's problems, doing and letting do, helping others.
Pope Francis insists that solemn declarations are not enough, but that concrete measures are necessary to face the real problems. In that sense, he thinks like Arizmendiarrieta, who also repeated that thoughts that are not translated into words do not work, and words that are not translated into facts are not valid, that the economic system is something monolithic and impregnable. But Arizmendiarrieta showed you that you can do things locally, and if many of us encourage each other to change our community, we are contributing to change the world. To do that, of course, we will need the help of the church.
We so need to reflect, so need to rectify, so need to mature. There is always one more step to take, and that is when we get to be noble. What we can never be is triumphalist.
And that we're continuing through many of the people who are with us here tonight. So we go into that now in greater detail and a call on Gaspar Martinez, who is a Catholic priest of the Diocese of Bilbao. I won't read the full thing, but I mean, there's a licentiate there in economics and business management. I see a Sloan fellow from the London Business School, PhD in theology, Professor Emeritus of Dogmatics and Spiritual Theology, author. As I told you, we have a very exalted company tonight, so I'd hand the microphone to you, Gaspar.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for being here. A special thanks to those who have organized this event. The person responsible for the chapel, the community of the chapel, and especially Father Manuel Barrios, who is actually the secretary of the committee, and his work has been instrumental to the organization of these events. Well, they have asked me to comment on the significance of the Mondragón experience on the one side, and on the other side on the significance of the activities of the foundation, of the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation. Well, beginning with Mondragón, well, you have to imagine a small village in the middle of nowhere, and something new, something very special, something that's going to transform the way people look at their own lives, their own professional lives and personal lives, and at the same time, the way they look at how to build a humane society. Now, it's a small village. I mean, it's Franco times, Spain, everything is very grey, very dark, no freedom, and people are just used to go and to get a job in a factory and spend there the rest of their lives, and that was it, if they were lucky enough to get a job. And then this humble priest comes from nowhere and transforms everything. Well, the church has never been short on doctrines and principles. That's one thing. But then, how to transform the economic system, that's a huge challenge. Well, that is, in my opinion, the miracle that in the end might justify Father Emaldi to be declared a saint of the Catholic Church. It's a miracle. A miracle that already has happened. He transformed everything. We have heard his main guiding ideas, principles, most of all, spirit. And the spirit has no limits. And that was why his ability to imagine and to devise new ways of transforming things knew of no limits. But at the same time, and this is very important, he was not a common leader, kind of worried with his own prestige. No. What did he do? Inspire people for them to be the leaders of their own project. That's a new kind of leadership. In my opinion, Mondragón has been a leadership factory, an example of how to change the way in which we imagine a leader. Well, the second thing, very important, that we saw at the video is that he knew that one single cooperative had no chance to survive. So he said, no, more and more must be set up, promoted. But that is not enough. If we don't have financial means, we will perish. Because the structure kind of will choke us. So he created a bank. Well, he didn't create a bank. He just suggested that the bank should be created. So the leaders of the project created the bank. And then he said, well, we need an insurance company. People when they retire, they need a means to survive, so they created a Lagunaro, which was their own insurance company. And then he says, well, if we don't educate people, we don't actually prepare them to perform the kind of jobs we are demanding, then we have no future. So we set up an educational system. That is to have a holistic vision of how a structure can be transformed. So, it was significant, yes, but to me, the most important thing is that from nothing, think again, there was a humble priest, newly arrived to a very small village in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden has been transformed in a worldwide example of how big towers can actually fall down, and instead new buildings full of humanity can be raised up. What are the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation? Well, fact is that nowadays the ability to create new cooperatives is very limited. In fact, the cooperatives are being developed through common companies based on capital. Well, the difference being that the cooperatives are the owners of those common companies. But over the last 30 years, very few new cooperatives have been created. So the expansion, there is a worldwide expansion of the group, has been through common, the kind of companies we know, based basically on capital. And yet, from Mondragón came a new way, a new organizational culture. And that is very important, how from something which is born in the cooperatives, that can be spread out through common companies, but of course inspired by this particular culture. What is the kernel, what is the core of this new culture? The human person. That's the most important thing. In the end, probably, the best contribution of Father Arizmendiarrieta was putting the human being at the center of society and at the center of the economic activity and of every company. Human dignity, creativity, participation, whatever. But in the end, is the human person is the center of everything. That, coupled with something that we have heard, a common good, community comes first, and then individual interests are the service of the common good. And this is kind of turning around the way we look at things. So, why our bishops decided to welcome the initiative, again, of lay people, as it was the case when the cooperatives were created, why they accepted the idea of setting up the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation within the church, because they thought that these lay people could contribute greatly to not only to expand and to spread out the doctrine of the church on social matters, but again, to put new seeds to transform the life of companies and of the economy. The way we use economy for the building of a more humane society. Now, there is a special contribution of the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation, which is if there is not a legal framework that can capture the spirit of this putting the human being at the center of the company and at the center of the economy and at the center of society, then things are going to be very difficult. So it is significant, the work of the Foundation Arizmendiarrieta in that sense. Promoting new legal frameworks. And what we were trying to do this morning under the auspices of COMECE at the European Parliament was precisely to present as a possibility in the horizon of setting up at the level of Europe a new legal framework for new companies being created in which the human person can fully participate, be creative, and in the end contribute more to the cause. I mean, I'm just talking now in church terms, to the cause of fostering the kingdom of God in history. And with that, I leave you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Father Gaspar. Something about the phrase that you used earlier jumped out at me. Small villages in the middle of nowhere. And it kind of felt allegorical to me. It's not a geographic image that I had, but an allegorical image. There are small villages in the middle of nowhere that are calling out for the kind of vision and inspiration that we see from Mondragón. And I said earlier that this is growing. This is definitely growing, and there are various forms developing. And I think that this is a form that has to be rediscovered for the potentiality of it. So thank you for that contribution. I suppose it's not out of character to speak about conversion in a church. Our next speaker, who is John Emaldi, and finance professor at Deusto Business School. I think it's probably, from what I could see online, I think you had a Damascus experience in the UK and became a convert to cooperativism, but I will let you explain that yourself. John is the, as I say, finance professor in Deusto Business School, and has been working with Laboral Kusha. I'm sure I've got that wrong. And he's just published Banking and Financial Crises, Can a Never-Ending Story Change? We hope the answer to that is yes. John, the platform's yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm also very, very pleased to be with you today and to share with you some experiences that I have got in Mondragón and in its bank, in Laboral Bank. Okay. I put it under this title. Under this title here, which is a question that I think it's well worth, in the words of Gaspar, for a person of faith. Is it possible to work in a participative, humanistic and competitive company, the three things together, in a company where we put in the center the person? There's something not... Well, my experience has been in this cooperative group that we have seen in the small video. Here we got Arizmendiarrieta on his bicycle, and the aim of Arizmendiarrieta was set short and clear: to improve the company model in order to improve society, nothing less. As we have seen, he was stubborn as a good Basque, He was able to convince people, he was able to mobilize his followers. But when I began in university, it was 25 years after the foundation of the first cooperative. I had to take a course on cooperativism out of my business school in another faculty, because in our business school there wasn't anything on cooperativism, and I have to say that out of 200 students in my course, I was the only one, so it really felt off the beaten track of the studies I was doing in our land, as you have already said. And it also has a meaning, the comment I get off the cuff from the head of my business school, which was his very words were, "You are showing lack of ambition enrolling Mondragón group." I really think I think that now things are changing fast. That hierarchies are very much in doubt. That the people are need really to be in the center of the companies. Those things that now we call working on values are becoming really important in our companies. But this thing that working on values, or saying that the people are the most important asset that we've got, need to have a conviction, and you really need to believe that this is going to work, and you really need to put them into practice. Otherwise, they are only chit chat and no more. So, sorry about this. What I have done is working in a group of companies where they use this motto here, humanity at work, which stresses the importance of commitment for work well done, for innovation, for value added in every single person, because we really put them in the center. It's a group with 250 enterprises. Half of them, those 95 here, are cooperatives, the rest are limited companies. So we've got also something quite differential or peculiar, which is this stress on education. We saw that the work of Arizmendiarrieta began in education, and at present the group has got 14, 15 different industrial research and development centers and a university of our own with 6,200 students every year. And the question is, which are those keys to the success that we see in this group? First, we have already said it, culture. In the video we have seen that Father Arizmendiarrieta used to say that we need people convinced, people who believe in the model, people who feel themselves being cooperativists in advance to launching cooperatives. And second, a different leadership, a democratic, open to criticism, something which is quite demanding, because this leadership is quite different from the usual hierarchical leadership that we used to see. And the third important key to success is a participative organization where everyone has a saying in the decision-making processes and how to organize his or her work. It's also important commitment of workers in the common good, in the common project, which is the company itself, thanks to participation, solidarity in the pay rates. For instance, in my case, I was quite high in the hierarchy of Laboral Kutxa, but my pay rate was 4.5 times the lowest level in the company, which is high within the bank, but quite far from the earnings of my fellow department directors in other and not so successful banks. And this commitment helps the added value of the people working. I've got this small story here, which is something that happened to me when I had to go to Mondragón in a Sunday evening to prepare something to launch with a computer during the night. And I asked help to work out things on the computer to one of my assistants, and she asked me why would I go on a Sunday evening and not her. The question is, why, being both partners, the effort will be higher for me and not for her, and we end going both to prepare things better. On results, some data on Laboral Kutxa, our bank. It's among the top 5 Spanish banks in productivity, cost-to-income ratio, return on equity, soundness, liquidity, customer care, customer satisfaction, you name it, everywhere, despite the size, which is much smaller than many of our competitors. And it's not only profitability or economic results, but also social results. For instance, on equality, we are breaking the glass ceiling much faster than our competitors. And for instance, in the board of directors, we've got a 50-50% of women and men. And in the higher management, you see how we follow a clear path of equality among different genders. And another key of our success is this one here, what I call radical transparency. And I'll give you another short story. In the board of directors of Laboral Kutxa, legally, the decision-making processes are confidential. But when after every meeting, the president and the CEO meet with the people of the social committee, and they explain every decision and every process that has been taken, something that I understand is completely against the law. But it's very important to get confidence and to involve everyone in the company. Another achievement that I can mention is on empowerment. For instance, we've got a project which is called Gaspar, and where we do is help self-employment through consultancy and through financing. I've been vice president of Gaspar for some years, and the thing is that this initiative comes from a group of brand managers who joined Caritas, and both of them began moving this project that at present, well, before the pandemic, was able to move every year 400 new initiatives of small businesses. And so, going back to the question that I have put in the first slide, For a person of faith or a believer, to someone who has deep convictions on personal basic equality, it's important to work in a company ruled by values. And the question is, those things that have been successful in the cooperative model are useful for limited companies as well? Is it possible to increase profitability through them? Well, we are convinced they are. We've got this inclusive participative company model that we are trying to share with many different interest groups, and that we have been speaking about in the European Parliament this afternoon. Which are the keys to this company model? But you got them here. The priority of the common good, the common project. Also building a culture of cooperation, co-responsibility, transparency. Also putting into practice the participation of workers, especially in the decision-making processes and in the organization and management of the company, and also developing in full the concept of social responsibility. Within this orientation, we have developed also good practices, even indicators, benchmarks, to implement this model. I won't go into more comments. I'll finish where I began. I have had the opportunity to fulfill a rewarding career in a cooperative bank. At present, my present ambition, I think not a small ambition, is to keep helping this model increasing internal and external cooperation and participation to be well spread among limited companies, and I'm sure that those limited companies will buy our model because they will find that humanistic and competitive aims can be very closely correlated. And well, this I don't feel like being out of the beaten track at present, because it's been well known in my business school, because I myself presented every year in quite a number of different undergraduate and graduate degrees. Well, and that's what I wanted to do.
Thank you, John. That presentation made me sad because your expertise is in banking. You've written books about banking. You have a wonderful model of a bank, and yet nothing's been learned from what I could see from the banking crisis. We in Ireland will be paying, every single man, woman and child will be paying for the next 40 years to pay off the debts of the banks who had no soul. So I'm sorry that you've made me sad. Well, what I think is consoling is the possible vision of a company ruled by values. And that is where there is a kind of an optimism. I see it with the younger generation now. They are very attuned to values. They're very attuned to using their purchasing power where they see value, real value, ethical value. They want to work in companies where there are ethical values, where they feel there's something worthwhile there. They're not sort of beholden to pure money. So I think that there's a lot still to think about. I found the session in Parliament today completely overwhelming in terms of so many things to think about. I hope you found the same. And if you have found things to think about, would you share them with us? Because we've got an expert panel here, and I think it's worthwhile digging in a little bit more. So I'm going to open the floor to questions, and we'll see where we can explore. Please, thank you very much.
Many thanks. The lovely thing about Mondragón experience is that it seems to be a quite lasting experience. I must say that I have good experience, such as Mondragón. For example, with Syntax, who was a pharmaceutical company founded by Jewish people after the war in Panama. And it started as a small things, and we were trained to be self-empowered team. It means to do research in full autonomy, and they were fair in salary, and we had participation. Syntax has been bought to Roche, forget about it. So I must say that the problem I see is that I've built several times self-empowered team who were working with core value, with team, scientific purpose before individual career. But after 10 years, every time the company dismantled to buy, to sell it, and now it's becoming again a very rush, difficult territory. A positive other thing is that you saying that there is no cooperative. I was recently listening to an experience in Congo, in East Congo, where we know war and a very sad situation, and there a group of pediatricians in Bukavu, a friend of the famous Mukwege, has set up a cooperative group of different agricultural cooperatives, and they manufacture flour, and they raise lucerne to a very good amino acid, and they are already treating 40,000 kids a year who are suffering of malnutrition. So here and there, the theory is working.
Thank you. Anybody like to respond to that? I think, just to say, I was sharing with somebody earlier, there's a new, I'm from Ireland obviously, and we're a very, very strong cooperative company, but we had the same experience. Very, very strong cooperatives that became multi-billion pound businesses and demutualised and took the profit. Not great, but we have a new format, a new legal format coming out for cooperatives in Ireland, and I think that actually there will be an attraction again to cooperatives. They had become a little bit difficult from a legal point of view, the setup. We were still working with 19th century law. I think this new law will make it much easier for people to form cooperatives, and it might become a more viable modern legal format for many social enterprises and social economy businesses. Sorry, this gentleman at the back.
Yes, I've got two questions. One for Emaldi is that it has been mentioned in the financial crisis of 2008. Yes, it has been mentioned the financial crisis of 2008. Which have been the learnings from the business point of view and from the personal point of view going through a crisis? And another question for the three speakers is how do they motivate the people they are working with?
I haven't understood well the question on crisis.
Which are the lessons?
What are the lessons from the banking crisis?
Banking crisis?
The thing that made me so sad. Are there any better lessons?
From the view and from the personal and human resources point of view.
Yeah. Well, on financial crisis, I used to say that they are a never-ending story, and that's a bit sad, as John has said, because it's not clear that we are able to put into practice the keys to develop something able to stop or at least to reduce the impact of banking and financial crisis. Gaspar worked on this, and with very many other people arrived to the conclusion that we have to change the way we see money and the way we behave in front of the financial problems, because it's not just the need of control on banks or on financial institutions, but it's the need to change the way people behave when money is on the table. For instance, we all know what's happening now with Bitcoin and the rest. I used to tell that in the place where I shop, they have put an ATM to buy and sell Bitcoins and the rest, which means we are making it normal to buy such a high risky currency. And why do we do that? Because, well, we measure very badly the risk, and we measure very well the opportunities or the way we think that the valuation of those currencies will go. To measure better the risk, we think that the solution is in the hands of regulators or the central bank or whoever. But that's not true. To measure the risk, it's in our hands, because we think that those risks don't exist, and that's it. So if we are not able to change the way we behave with money, I don't think that we will be able to stop or to limit the banking and financial crisis. And that's very difficult. I mean, changing the risk aversion of people is very, very difficult. It's not enough to show, okay, in a year, a Bitcoin can change its value up and down. How much? 70%, 80%, even 90% in a year, up and down. But reducing the value 90% means that something whose price was 100 at present has got 10. And this is something that we rationally see, but in our behavior we don't see at all. So in a sense, I'm quite pessimistic as John himself about the possibility to limit them. Maybe Gaspar, you have written on that and you would want to add something?
No, unfortunately.
Your second question, did we cover that?
It was about motivation. How do they motivate the people they are working with?
So how to motivate the people working with
how to motivate people working
within the cooperatives. People working within the cooperatives?
Yes.
Yeah.
When they are working with people, I mean, for example, it has been said that Father Arizmendiarrieta was a person who was able to encourage the leadership. I mean, which are your experience about how to encourage the leadership or how to motivate the people you are working with?
Well, referring to the Mondragón experience, he said that, in my opinion, Mondragón has become a leadership factory. Now the question is how to translate that into the life of a common company, which is owned by those who hold the capital shares. And that's more difficult. So what actually the Arizmendiarrieta Foundation is saying to do is precisely work on that field of translating the spirit of the cooperatives, the values, and the way leadership is understood, and participation, and the hierarchy of values that is very important, community first, common good, and we are at the service of that project, which is kind of, this is sort of mysticism, and it's not easy to translate that into common life. So, well, I must say that one of the factors in the case of Father Arizmendiarrieta was that he was actually working with transcendent values. Well, I'm not sure that's going to be possible if we try to translate that into the common experience of common companies. So, we can do that through participation, transparency, fostering creativity and innovation, and in a way, leading by putting in the hands of the people their own leadership, so that they understand that they are not led, but they become leaders. But I think that's the whole trick, which is, of course, is not easy to achieve. But I think that kind of taps on our possibility to be creative, to be, in the end, to be a human being and take responsibility for your own life and contributing to the life of others. That's all I can say.
So can I just ask, Gaspar,
Yes.
is that something that they look for in promotion states? So for instance, is that a quality of leadership that is sought in when they're deciding who to promote within the organisation?
Well, I think so, yeah. How you convince the person that the life of the company is in her or his hands? There is only one way. Well, paying attention to what that person is telling you. And then, of course, giving that person the possibility of making a mistake. Because otherwise, if you're going to say, no, don't go this way because I know that that's a mistake. Well, then he says, well, what do you mean? What I say has no value. So, the organization must develop certain mechanism for fostering at the same time creativity and responsibility, and what Juan Manuel Sinde was saying this morning, a sense of purpose. A purpose can be, in a way, a certain substitute for this transcendent value I was referring to before.
I would like to stress a fact, to be able to put this into practice, which is what I have called radical transparency. I try to give you an example, and that example is the one I mentioned. In the case of Laboral Kutxa, they give information that I think they can't. It's that this goes against the law to give so much information to the people who are working in the bank, because I have explained how the decision-making processes of the board of directors are explained to the committee, but I haven't said that the committee publishes it in the web of the company. So it means that this is absolutely transparent, even too transparent. For instance, in Laboral Kutxa, we merged with another small cooperative, another credit cooperative, and when we merged with them, for instance, the people coming from the second cooperative was earning more than the people in my bank, in Laboral Kutxa. And so, according with this procedure that I have explained, the salary of the top of the company which was merged was published in the web of the bank without explanations, just saying that they were earning more than the people in the bank. As you, of course, you would understand that next day everyone was commenting in the coffee machine how much is earning this man, who left something like 30% of his salary for coming into the merged bank. And it's clear that this was not something orthodox or something good for the company to have everyone speaking about the salary of the top person who has joined the bank. But I want to stress the fact that sometimes you go too far with this radical transparency, but it really helps people feeling involved and getting this personal confidence in the way it's been ruled in the bank or in the cooperative.
Thank you. We did start 10 minutes late, so I think I'm really pretty much bang on time. It's been fantastic to be with you, but I'm going to call. Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. If I have permission to continue, yeah.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
It's just one last. So thank you very much for your talk to all. And I just want to ask more to the bishop, because as youth, I see many priests who try to begin something locally in their parish, but unfortunately I feel sometimes the hierarchy of the church tries to have control of something that is growing locally, and if also maybe for all, just a question, because when we are just citizens, our only way to change is also how we vote, and I feel that this rhetoric of community is something that many left have, and that is missing from more conservative, and the Christianity of this message is lost in every political party, and that the Christians should maybe voice ourselves more, but that it is very difficult in our days because of egoism and individualism, and how we can recenter community and the good for all without this more leftist aspect and more authoritarian aspect that has developed in countries that tried to promote the common good.
I think we're going to see a miracle that can be answered in 3 minutes.
Well, if somebody who is a priest understands his responsibility as imposing something, he is not a good leader, he is not a good priest. So in my opinion, the good leader and the good priest are those who are able to get the best of each person and to respect the fact that the community is not yours, it's the community of all the members, and everybody has something to say, everybody has something to promote and to help, and you have some qualities that I don't have, and it's very important that I have to respect you and to let you flourish. This is the way that I understand leadership. I know that it's very difficult to work like that, and perhaps many priests, even those priests who are younger, have some trouble, some of them, with this way of understanding priesthood. But I don't have the answers for all the priests in the Catholic Church in 5 continents, in many different cultural situations. It's too big for me.
But it's a great question. I mean, I think the irony that left and right, you know, left is more Christian than right. When did that happen? Sorry, yes.
Just a quick question. Is there interest in the foundation to export this outside of Spain, to export the model? Is there any project to export it to other countries? Or be in touch maybe with executive programs in universities where you will be having the leaders? Because I think it's a fantastic program and should be shared outside of the region. So has the foundation the possibility to do, is interested in doing so?
Well, to export worldwide, probably over the mark, but I'll tell you, just in practice, what the foundation is doing. First, it passed a not compulsory law in the Basque Country, and then another one, a similar one, in another parliament nearby. Now, it's working for achieving the same at the Spanish level. And today we had the opportunity to present our concerns and our ideas here in the European Parliament, of course, in a very modest way. But we don't know. But the president of the foundation always say that everything is in the hands of Father Arizmendiarrieta and at the end of the day, in the hands of the Holy Spirit. And he says, if the Holy Spirit wants, that will go forward. And otherwise, well, that's the will of the Holy Spirit. So let's hope we are inspired by the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much.
But it does bring up a question. Maybe we need more publicity about there are cooperatives all over the world, you know, in this country, in the Netherlands, in Ireland, in the UK still. So maybe we just don't hear it and see it enough.
And about this cooperative in several countries, as I shared the topic of this conference among the people, they came to the chapel in the last days, they said also, well, we have also here in Belgium several cooperatives. And the question is, do you have any international contacts with other cooperatives in other countries? Someone said at the beginning that one cooperative doesn't survive.
Yeah.
I could say even the bunch of cooperatives in one country, probably they will survive, but it's easier to get in touch with the other cooperatives in other countries. So any contacts or any plans?
I'm sure there must be some worldwide network of.
There are networks of cooperatives, and it's true that in Mondragón experience the collaboration among different cooperatives is the key, or is one of the main keys of their success. But it's not easy to translate experiences in other places. I think that before the pandemic, we used to have visitors in Mondragón. I mean, visitors, something like 1,000 visitors a year. Of people interested in getting to know our experience, mostly from whatever, not very many from Spain, that's true, but many from Europe, Africa, Latin America, and a lot of places. And the contacts, we got a lot of contacts, and the Mondragón University as well has got a lot of contacts, and they are increasingly having presence in very many different countries. But I can't tell you about an international collaboration project which is mature enough to give here results. There are lots of contacts, but I can't tell about any successful experience. Maybe there could be in their beginnings, but we can't show something really useful and consolidated enough.
Okay, I think we really do have to wrap it up there. If that's not a hint, the boss is standing right here. So I'm going to hand over to Father Manuel to wrap things up. Thank you.
I won't wrap things up. I think we've had a very, very exceptional experience today, both in the Parliament and here in the Chapel for Europe. I was doubting at the beginning because having two events the same day on the same subject is not easy. And I think it really makes sense. This event in the Parliament is more technical, more for the policy makers, and this event here more intimate, with people that are more interested in making the spirituality and present values that we share, and how this has inspired this important experience of the Mondragón experience. I see we had a lot of questions. I still have a lot of questions. So maybe we have now the possibility of asking these questions below. We have an apple there, so we can still enjoy a bit of time together. So thank you very much for being here today. Thank you very much to the panel, to Monsignor Segura, Bishop of Bilbao, for being with us today, John for moderating, and Gaspar also for his very inspirational words. So thanks very much, and we meet below. Thank you also to